The desperate alliance, the great assembly hall of the Galactic conquered, thrummed with tension. Thousands of holographic displays cast a kaleidoscope of colors across the massive chamber, each representing one of the 500 member species in attendance. At the center podium, Ambassador Tella of the Loraxian Federation stood with her forearms clasped tightly against her torso, a posture of extreme distress among her kind. "Esteemed representatives," she began, her melodic voice carrying through the vast space. "I come before you not with proposals of cooperation or cultural exchange, but with a desperate plea for the survival of my people." The main display behind her activated, showing images of the Loraxian homeworld, a beautiful aquamarine planet with 3 moons and sprawling cities built within massive crystalline structures that captured and refracted the light of their red, giant star. Then the images shifted dramatically, orbital structures burning, crystalline cities shattered, civilians huddled in underwater shelters. For 96 cycles, the Makari Dominion has blockaded our homeworld and 3 colony worlds. They demand unconditional surrender, control of our psionic amplification technology, and, Tella's voice faltered, the conscription of 1/4 of our population for what they term specialized labor programs. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Makari Dominion had been expanding aggressively for centuries, but this level of brutality shocked even the most cynical delegates. "We have exhausted every diplomatic channel," Tella continued. "We have offered trade concessions, technology sharing agreements, even limited territorial concessions. In response, the Makari High Commander merely extended our deadline by 20 cycles, stating that if we do not comply, they will begin orbital bombardment of population centers." Grand Arbiter Zol, a tall insectoid being with compound eyes that shimmered with bioluminescence, tapped their ceremonial staff against the floor. "Ambassador Tella, the Concord acknowledges the gravity of your situation. However, our non-intervention protocols are unambiguous. The Makari Dominion maintains recognized status in this body. Without explicit evidence of treaty violations affecting multiple species, we cannot authorize military intervention." Tella's skin, normally a vibrant purple, dulled to a pale lavender, a physiological sign of despair among Loraxians. "I expected this response, but I had to try. In 20 cycles, my civilization faces extinction or enslavement. I have a question." All eyes turned toward a side entrance of the chamber. A human woman in a dark blue uniform stood there, her posture straight and confident. Unlike the ornate garments or exoskeletons of most representatives, her attire was plainly functional, with only a small patch on her shoulder bearing the insignia of Earth's Defense Force. Arbiter Zol gestured with impatience. "The Earth observer has not been recognized." The human stepped forward anyway. "Captain Maya Riley, Earth Defense Force. Ambassador Tella, have you requested direct assistance from individual worlds rather than conquered action?" Tella blinked her large, faceted eyes, in confusion. "The conquered is the proper channel for—" "Yes, I understand protocol," Riley interrupted. "But my question is simple. Have you asked anyone else?" "No," Tella admitted. "The Makari blockade consists of 42 capital ships and supporting vessels. No single world could possibly—" "Earth will help," Riley stated, her voice carrying through the chamber without effort. The room erupted in voices. Arbiter Zol hammered his staff repeatedly. "Observer Riley, this is highly irregular. Earth has only held observer status for 13 years. You cannot make such commitments in this chamber." Riley shrugged. "I just did. If the Loraxian Federation wishes to formally request Earth's assistance, we stand ready to respond." An elegant reptilian delegate rose from his seat. "The human speaks nonsense. Their civilization is barely beyond primitive interstellar travel. They maintain only 8 colonized worlds, while the Makari Dominion controls 57 systems." "Ambassador, Kresh speaks truth," added another delegate, her holographic form shimmering slightly. "Humans come from a death world with crushing gravity and toxic atmosphere. This makes them naturally aggressive and impulsive. They do not understand the complexities of galactic politics." Riley showed no reaction to these criticisms. She looked directly at Tella. "Ambassador, My government authorized this offer before I arrived. We've been monitoring the situation since your cultural delegation visited Earth last year. We appreciate your art and music. We don't appreciate bullies. Tella stared, bewildered. But why would Earth risk conflict with the Makari? Dominion? What compensation do you seek? A brief expression crossed Riley's face, something between amusement and determination. We don't want anything, that's not how this works. Arbiter Zoll's voice cut through the noise. Observer Riley, I must formally warn you that unauthorized military action violates Concord regulations. Earth could lose its observer status and face trade restrictions. Riley nodded politely. Noted, Arbiter. Ambassador Tella, the offer stands. Your decision. Tella looked around the chamber at representatives of civilizations that had traded with, taught, and guided the Loraxian people. For millennia, none would meet her gaze. She turned back to the human. Earth's help would be welcomed by the Loraxian Federation, she said formally. Riley nodded once and tapped a device on her wrist. Message sent. Earth Defense Force has been activated. The EDS Horizon will depart within 10 hours. It should arrive in approximately 14 days. Can you provide secure coordinates for rendezvous? Ship? Singular. Someone laughed from across the chamber. The humans believe they can challenge a Makari blockade with one vessel? Riley didn't acknowledge the mockery. She crossed the chamber to Tella and extended her hand in the human custom. Tella hesitantly reached out with her upper right arm, and they clasped limbs. The Makari are known for their advanced weapons technology and tactical superiority. Tella whispered, I appreciate your offer, but Riley smiled slightly. We've studied their capabilities, don't worry too much. After exchanging secure communication protocols, Riley turned to leave. Arbiter Zoll called after her. Observer Riley, the Conquered, formally requests information about what kind of intervention Earth is planning. Riley paused at the doorway. You'll receive a full report after the mission, Arbiter, but I can tell you we're sending the Horizon. The name meant nothing to most delegates, but several technological specialists exchanged concerned glances. The vessel with the experimental quantum displacement drive? Asked a cybernetic representative from the Volturi Collective. That ship violates at least 16 safety guidelines established by the Concord, added another. As you frequently remind us, Riley replied with a polite nod. Good day, representatives. After the human left, the chamber filled with urgent conversations. Tella found herself surrounded by delegates, some offering sympathy, others warning her about the dangers of human involvement. They evolved on a world with nearly twice the gravity of most habitable planets, one science officer told her. Their skeletal and muscular density is unnaturally high. Their atmosphere contains reactive oxygen that would damage most species. Respiratory systems, added another. They breathe corrosive gas as naturally as we breathe noble elements. Their history is filled with internal warfare, a historian noted. They achieved planetary unification less than 2 centuries ago after countless devastating conflicts. Ambassador Kresh pulled Tella aside. My friend, I understand your desperation, but humans are dangerous. Not malevolent, perhaps, but unpredictable. Their ship designs prioritize power over safety. Their battle tactics defy conventional doctrine. Tella looked at them all with newfound determination. The Makari gave us 2 choices, slavery or extinction. The humans just gave us a third option. I choose that one. As Tella left the chamber, her communication device chimed. It contained just 3 words from Earth Command. Help is coming. For the first time in 96 cycles, Tella felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Admiral Sophia Chen stood at the viewport of Earth Orbital Command, watching the massive form of the EDS Horizon as it prepared for departure. At 62, Chen had witnessed humanity's transformation from a single-planet species to an emerging galactic power. The silver streaks in her black hair and the slight lines around her eyes were testament to the challenges of that journey. How soon can we launch? She asked without turning. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Torres consulted his tablet. Final preparations will complete in 8 hours, Admiral. Captain Riley reports all systems green. Chen nodded. And the diplomatic fallout? Exactly what you'd expect. 31 formal protests from Concord members, 7 warnings about potential sanctions, and interestingly, 12 discreet messages of support from worlds that won't publicly oppose the Makari. Chen finally turned from the viewport, a slight smile on her face. Amazing how many friends you make when you might actually do something useful. The Admiral walked to the central command table, where a holographic display showed the Loraxian system and the Makari blockade. 42 red triangles surrounding 4 blue spheres. 42 warships against peaceful worlds with minimal defenses, Chen said. This won't be easy. They have numbers and position. We have... What exactly? Torres smiled. We have the Horizon, ma'am, and we have Captain Riley. 2 decks below the bridge of the Horizon, Captain Maya Riley inspected the ship's main reactor chamber. At 38, Riley was considered young for such a critical command, but her experience during the Jupiter incident had marked her as an exceptional leader. Talk to me, Park, she said to the ship's chief engineer. Will she hold? Dr. Minjun Park didn't look up from the complex display showing power flows through the ship's systems. The 40-year-old physicist had designed much of the Horizon's revolutionary drive system. Conventional physics says no, Park replied, his fingers dancing across the controls. But we left conventional physics behind when we built this. The heart of the Horizon was its experimental quantum displacement drive, a system that didn't just propel the ship, but actually shifted it between quantum states, allowing it to exist simultaneously in multiple positions before collapsing into a single location. Most galactic powers used reliable fusion or antimatter reactors. Humans had pursued a different path entirely. The Concord tech inspectors called it recklessly dangerous, Riley said with a hint of pride. Park laughed. They also called it impossible. Then we built it anyway. Riley appreciated Park's confidence. Where others saw danger in the pulsing blue-violet light of the core, he saw possibilities. Can we push beyond safety parameters if necessary? Riley asked quietly. Park finally looked up, his eyes serious. The official answer is absolutely not. And your answer? Probably. But there would be consequences. Riley nodded. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. On the bridge, the command crew prepared for departure. Lieutenant Commander Aisha Okafor plotted the fastest course to Loraxian space. Weapons Specialist Commander Derek Zhang ran final checks on the ship's unconventional arsenal. Communications. Officer Lieutenant David Nguyen monitored the flood of incoming messages. Another warning from the Volturi Collective, Nguyen announced. They say our drive will destabilize local spacetime and demand we power down immediately. Riley settled into the captain's chair. Send our standard response. Nguyen nodded and transmitted the carefully worded message that essentially said, in diplomatic language, noted. Proceeding anyway. Riley addressed the bridge crew. I know you've all studied the briefing. 42 Makari ships against R1. They have superior numbers. They have strategic position. They have combat experience. She paused, looking at each crew member in turn. What they don't have is a good reason to fight. They're bullies targeting a peaceful species. We're going to show them why that was a mistake. Riley turned to her. First Officer. Commander Hayes, are all departments ready? Commander John Hayes nodded. All systems report ready, Captain. Crew at battle stations. Good. Navigation. Begin departure sequence. As the massive engines of the Horizon powered up, the ship's AI system announced, warning, power levels exceeding Concord safety guidelines by 53%. Riley exchanged a glance with Hayes. Note the warning in the log. Continue departure. The great ship pulled away from Earth Orbital Command, its unusual drive creating ripples in the fabric of space that seemed to bend the light around. In her quarters aboard the Loraxian diplomatic vessel, Ambassador Tella watched her planet's fate change course. Defying the impossible, High Commander Vex of the Makari Dominion stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inexorable Will, surveying the holographic display of the blockade formation. His scaled skin glinted in the dim light. the red patterns that marked his high rank standing out against his otherwise dark gray complexion. "Status report," he demanded, his voice a rumbling bass that made subordinates instinctively straighten their postures. Strategic Officer Mal approached, careful to keep her head lower than her commanders, a sign of deference among Makari. "The blockade holds, High Commander. Loraxian resistance has ceased entirely. Their orbital defenses have been disabled. Ground-based communication indicates growing civil unrest. Surrender is imminent." Vex permitted himself a small gesture of satisfaction, a slow closing of his inner eyelids. "Excellent, and the deadline?" 17 cycles remain. Our projections indicate they will capitulate within 12. "Perfect. Once we control their psionic amplification technology, we can finally neutralize the High Commander." The urgent voice of Sensor Officer Krell interrupted. "Unknown vessel approaching from Sector 9. It's moving at impossible speeds." Vex turned sharply. "Identify." "Unable to match to known configurations, sir. But the energy signature suggests—" Krell hesitated. "Speak, officer." "Human, sir. It appears to be a human vessel." The bridge fell silent. The Makari had minimal contact with humans. The Deathworlders were still newcomers to galactic society, holding only observer status in the Concord. But rumors of their unusual technological approaches had reached even the highest levels of Makari command. "Impossible," Vex said finally. "Humans have no stake in this conflict and no means to intervene effectively. Maintain blockade formation, but divert the implacable and the resolute to intercept. Instructions are to warn off, then disable if necessary." "Yes, High Commander." 17 light minutes away, the EDS horizon dropped out of quantum displacement, materializing just outside the Loraxian system. On the bridge, Captain Riley studied the tactical display with intense focus. "2 vessels breaking formation," Commander Hayes reported. "Moving to intercept. Designation matches Makari heavy cruisers, implacable and resolute." Riley nodded. "As expected. They're following standard Makari doctrine. Send a measured response, demonstrate superior force, expect compliance." "They're transmitting, Lieutenant," Nguyen announced. "Standard warning to vacate Makari-controlled space. Send our response." Nguyen raised an eyebrow but complied. "Transmitting. We are the Earth Defense Ship Horizon, responding to a formal request for assistance from the Loraxian Federation. Makari forces are ordered to withdraw from Loraxian space immediately." The bridge crew exchanged glances. It was an audacious demand, one ship ordering 42 to withdraw. "They're responding," Nguyen said. "Human vessel, you are outmatched. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning." Riley smiled slightly. "And now they've made their first mistake." "Captain?" Hayes questioned. "They've revealed they don't understand what they're dealing with. Lieutenant Commander Okafor, initiate displacement pattern Alpha. Commander Zhang, defensive systems only for now." "Aye, Captain," both officers responded. The Horizon's quantum displacement drive engaged, but not in its traditional propulsion mode. Instead, the ship began to partially exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously, creating 4 ghostly duplicate images of the vessel, each seeming partially transparent. On the implacable, Weapons Officer Zrath stared at his display. In confusion, "Captain, the human vessel is multiplying?" Captain Dren of the implacable hissed in frustration. "Sensor malfunction. Target the central mass and fire." The Makari cruiser unleashed a barrage of plasma torpedoes, only to have them pass harmlessly through one of the phantom images of the horizon. "No impact," Zrath reported, his voice rising. "The target, it's not where it appears to be." "Impossible," Dren snarled. "All batteries, wide dispersal pattern." Both Makari cruisers opened fire, filling space with deadly energy, yet somehow, the horizon remained untouched, its quantum state shifting faster than the Makari targeting systems could compensate for. On the horizon's bridge, Riley watched the display calmly. "They're confused. Good. Now let's show them something new. Commander Zhang, activate kinetic impactors." Kinetic impactors ready, Captain. Target weapon systems only. Fire. From the Horizon's lateral launch bays, dozens of small, seemingly innocuous objects were deployed. They contained no explosives or energy weapons, just dense metal cylinders accelerated to incredible speeds through magnetic propulsion. Most spacefaring races had abandoned such primitive weapons centuries ago in favor of energy-based systems. The first impactor struck the Implacable's main weapons array, the sheer kinetic force crumpling the advanced Makari technology. More impactors followed, systematically disabling weapon systems on both cruisers with surgical precision. Direct hits on all targeted systems, Zhang reported. Both vessels are combat ineffective. Communications, open a channel. Channel open. Riley stood. Makari vessels, this is Captain Maya Riley of the EDS Horizon. Your weapon systems have been disabled. You will withdraw to the edge of the system and remain there. This is not a negotiation. On the bridge of the inexorable will, High Commander, Vex watched in disbelief as the tactical display showed the Implacable and Resolute, two of his finest cruisers, retreating, their weapon systems completely disabled. One ship, he seethed. One human ship did this? Strategic Officer Mal ventured a response. The reports indicate some kind of quantum displacement technology, High Commander. Our sensors couldn't establish a targeting lock. Irrelevant. Prepare. The fleet for combat formation. We will crush this human interference with overwhelming force. Sir, Mal hesitated. Perhaps we should analyze their capabilities further before. Are you questioning my command? Vex's inner eyelids snapped open fully, a sign of extreme aggression among Makari. Mal lowered her head further. No, High Commander, preparing combat formation. The Makari blockade shifted, 30 of their 42 ships forming into an attack wedge while the remaining 12 maintained positions around the Laraxian worlds. The Makari fleet is moving, Hayes reported on the Horizon's bridge. 30 vessels in attack formation bearing directly for us. Riley nodded. Right on schedule. They're angry and they're arrogant. Commander Zhang, prepare all defensive and offensive systems. Dr. Park, I need everything the drive can give us. Park's voice came through the comm system. The quantum displacement field can handle a maximum of 12 simultaneous states for approximately 6 minutes, Captain. After that, we risk core destabilization. Understood. Lieutenant Commander Okafor, plot displacement pattern Gamma. Let's make those 6 minutes count. As the Makari attack formation closed in, the Horizon erupted into a bewildering array of quantum states. No longer just 4 phantom images, but 12. Each shifting position unpredictably. Impossible. Captain Dren muttered on the Implacable's bridge, watching from the sidelines. No matter if conventional physics could allow. Who said humans use conventional physics? His science officer replied grimly. The Makari fleet opened fire, unleashing a devastating barrage that would have annihilated any normal vessel multiple times over. Energy weapons and plasma torpedoes crossed the void, only to pass through phantom images or miss entirely as the Horizon shifted between quantum states, and the Horizon responded, not with energy weapons or explosive ordnance, but with hundreds of kinetic impactors targeting propulsion and weapon systems with impossible precision. Several Makari vessels found themselves suddenly drifting, their engines disabled. Others watched helplessly as their weapon systems were systematically destroyed. They're not trying to destroy the ships, Hayes observed. Just neutralize them. Exactly, Riley replied. We're not here for vengeance, we're here to stop a bully. She tapped a control on her chair. Dr. Park, how's the core holding up? 4 minutes until critical threshold, Captain. But I've got an idea. I'm listening. We've been using the quantum displacement defensively, but we could reverse the field, create a quantum singularity directly in the center of their formation. Not enough to destroy ships, but enough to disrupt their systems and create confusion. Riley considered for a moment. Do it. In the center of the Makari formation, space itself seemed to fold inward. It wasn't a conventional explosion or energy weapon. It was a momentary disruption in the fabric of reality itself. Ship systems flickered. Navigation arrays failed. Communication systems went silent, and still the horizon struck, methodically, disabling one Mikari ship after another. On the inexorable will, chaos reigned. 16 vessels disabled, reported a shaken sensor officer Krell, the rest reporting multiple system failures. High Commander Vex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. This is not possible. They are one ship, one primitive Deathworlder. Ship? High Commander, Strategic Officer Mal said cautiously. I recommend immediate withdrawal. The humans are not destroying our vessels, they are offering us a way out. Vex's scaled skin darkened with rage, but his strategic mind finally overcame his pride. Order all vessels to disengage. Return to Mikari space at best possible speed. As the Mikari fleet retreated, Ambassador Tella watched from her ship with astonishment. One human vessel had done what the entire Galactic Concord had deemed impossible. Driven away the mighty Mikari Dominion without a single fatality on either side. Her communication device chimed. It was Captain Riley. Ambassador, the Mikari fleet is withdrawing from your system. Will remain on station for the next 30 days to ensure they don't return. I suggest your government use that time to strengthen your defensive capabilities. Captain Riley. Tella's voice trembled with emotion. You've saved billions of lives today. The Luraxian Federation owes Earth a debt we can never repay. Riley's image smiled on the small screen. There is no debt, Ambassador. Just remember that not all species require payment to do the right thing. In the Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Concord 2 weeks later, Ambassador Tella addressed the gathered representatives. Esteemed members of the Concord, I come before you today not with pleas or warnings but with an announcement. The Luraxian Federation hereby formally endorses Earth's application for full membership in the Galactic Concord. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Arbiter Zoll tapped his staff for order. Ambassador Tella, while your endorsement is noted, Earth's observer status is under review due to their unauthorized military action in your system. With respect, Arbiter, Tella replied. When my people faced extinction, and this body refused to act, Earth acted. They deployed one ship, 1 against 42. They drove away the Mikari without a single casualty, and they asked for nothing in return. She looked around the chamber. Perhaps we have been too quick to dismiss these Deathworlders as primitive and impulsive. Perhaps what we interpret as recklessness is actually courage. What we see as technological recklessness might be innovation. From the back of the chamber, Captain Riley watched in silence, standing beside Admiral Chen. Think they'll actually let us join? Riley asked quietly. Chen smiled. Eventually. They're afraid of us now, which is good. But they're also curious, which is better. And the Mikari? Intelligence suggests they're conducting an extensive review of their military doctrine. Apparently, they've created an entire division dedicated to understanding human quantum warfare techniques. Riley suppressed a laugh. Should we tell them we barely understand it ourselves? Absolutely not, Chen replied with a wink. Let them think we have 100 more ships like the Horizon waiting in reserve. As they watched Ambassador Tella continue her impassioned defense of humanity's place in the galaxy, Riley reflected on the mission. They had saved billions of lives, prevented a war, and perhaps changed the course of galactic politics, all with a single ship and a willingness to stand up when others would. Not sometimes being from a death world had its advantages.